Amendment 80 provides a constitutional right to school choice, including neighborhood schools, charter schools, private schools, homeschools, open enrollment options, and future innovations in education. One of the organizations in support of it is Ready Colorado. They're a group of conservatives dedicated to ensuring that every kid in Colorado receives the education they deserve. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show is Brenda Dickhoner, President and CEO of Ready Colorado. Brenda, thanks so much for taking time to join our program.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's talk about Amendment 80. Why is this so important that it passes on the November ballot?
Oh gosh, Jeff. Well, you just laid the foundation really well. That school choice is just so incredibly important to our state. That this is what really elevates opportunity for children. That allows parents to be the ones who are directing their child's education, because of course parents know their children best. And we've been fortunate in Colorado to have some pretty strong state laws that allow parents to homeschool, to choose a different public school, which is called open enrollment, or to attend a charter school. And those were all rights that were established by state laws, which also means that our state politicians could take away those rights. They could rescind those laws, they could put up barriers, they could make it a lot harder for parents to exercise their right to school choice. And so that is why we are supportive of this constitutional amendment, which will really cement these rights into the Constitution and protect us from those politicians with ideological agendas that are trying to take our rights away.
Talking with Brenda Dickhoner, President and CEO of Ready Colorado. Now, Brenda, look, historically, Democrats have been pretty good on school choice in Colorado. I remember one time handing John Hickenlooper, when he was the governor, a Golden Apple Award when I was representing the Colorado Coalition of Cyber School Families, because he supported the ability of parents to choose online options for their kids. Some kids just couldn't attend brick and mortar. Maybe they're getting bullied too much, or some kids were like athletes that traveled all around and needed to have online options. And Governor Hickenlooper was supportive of that. Governor Polis was supportive of school choice. He has his own charter schools, for instance, and has been a creative force behind them. Now, we've seen some changes down at the state capitol, and progressives haven't been as supportive of school choice. What are some of the problems you've run into at the state capitol that makes it important to constitutionalize school choice?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been a lot of problems down at the Capitol, and I think the most prominent one, which I know others have probably mentioned on your show, is a bill that was run last session that would have really truly dismantled charter schools in our state. It was death by 1,000 cuts and gave districts carte blanche authority to close charter schools, even if they were high-performing charter schools. And so that was really the most egregious attack to date. We've seen these types of attacks every session by progressive lawmakers, but this one was really frightening because it was so severe and because the vote in the House Committee on Education was so close. And so I do worry about where the state is trending. Jared Polis has 2 years left. So that backstop, that protection for charter schools will no longer be there.
No,
or could, potentially. I don't know who the next governor is going to be. But
right. Well, and sometimes Jared could get a lot of pressure, especially if the unions are on top of it. But let's talk about the importance of charter schools. My kids go to a charter school. We love it because it gives parents more levels of engagement to guide with leadership of the school, curriculum. Our kids attend a classical charter school modeled after classical education provided by Hillsdale College. Our kids learn Latin, they study Greek and Roman history, and it just has that focus. Now, I've run into charter schools before that have like an aviation focus. There's one out near Centennial Airport where if your kid wants to be a pilot, well, they could start training for that in kindergarten, essentially, and their education's geared around that school. So charter schools provide a tremendous amount of freedom for parents and for students to be able to find the right educational fit for their kids. From Ready Colorado's perspective, why is it so important to protect charter schools?
Those are some great examples, and I know your kid's school is just one of the best, and there are so many examples of that across the state that are providing really interesting, I think, curricular models that are focused on that classical history, the foundations of our country, also focusing on character, right, and character development for our children. And so I love the classical school model. There are other great strong schools focused on STEM. There are schools and charter schools in our state and in Denver in particular that are serving low-income students of color exceptionally well. The Common Sense Institute had released a report analyzing the DSST schools, which is Denver School of Science and Technology, and they actually estimated the economic impact of those schools on our state because, and it's extremely high, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but it is an immense impact that they've had on these kids' lives, which then translates into this massive economic impact for our state as well. So you really think about the generational impact, economic impact that these schools can have, as well as really just honoring the fundamental right of a parent to choose a learning environment that they know will help their child reach their full potential. And I think, to your point about the charter schools too, Ascend Classical is authorized by the Charter School Institute, which is statewide authorizer, but most of our charter schools are authorized by local school districts. And what that means is every 2 to 5 years, they have to go through a renewal of their contract with the local school district. And, so we're not only seeing attacks at the state legislature, we're seeing it at that local level as well. And our top performing charter school, Liberty Common, or they have the top performing SAT average in the state, they barely made it through their renewal vote in the Poudre School District. And then they got to the state board and they got waivers or flexibilities. That's what allows charters to innovate. They got those stripped by the State Board of Education just a couple months ago. And this is, Congressman Bob Schaefer's classical charter school up in Fort Collins, extremely high performing. So they're coming after charter schools at all levels right now.
That's amazing. Talking with Brenda Dickhoner, President and CEO of Ready Colorado. So I want you to respond to a few critiques that come from the right and left about Amendment 80. Let's start with the left. Amendment 80 is going to lay the groundwork for money to be removed from public schools, to be voucherized, and it's going to be sent to private religious schools. What's your response to that critique?
Yeah, I think it's just simply untrue. Wherever you stand on that issue, I think it's not what the language says. So you can go read the language for yourself, read the blue book, right? There's zero fiscal note, given to this amendment, because this amendment was written about the right to school choice. So that's where I was talking about those laws that establish the right to homeschooling, the right to charter schools, and the right to open enrollment. So this enshrines those rights to make the choice. It doesn't say anything about that you then get a bus ride to that school or you get funding to that school. It's about the right and enshrining that in our Constitution.
Let's respond to the right critiques coming from different homeschool groups, for instance, saying that this could create a right for the student to have school choice that may pit them against their parents. And we may have a whole new series of lawsuits where kids want to go to a particular school and parents won't be able to stop it because of this new constitutional right. What's your response to them?
Yeah, I think it's just a misunderstanding of the text. And I have an immense respect for our homeschooling families in Colorado, and certainly have a lot of friends that do that as well. And I think it's just a misunderstanding of the amendment, right? Like it's going to establish a constitutional right similar to our right to free speech, right? And what we're saying is politicians or the government can't infringe on those rights. But there's nothing that says, it gives the child the right to sue their parents. Like, that doesn't even exist now. The parents right now today could tell their children, you can't wear that outfit to school. And the kid's not going to be able to go sue the parents saying, hey, it's my right to free speech to wear this t-shirt. That just doesn't happen. That's just not something that this contemplates. It's not contemplated under our current law. It's not contemplated under this constitutional amendment.
What do you think is going to happen if this doesn't pass? And teachers unions, we had Steve Shuck on last week to talk about this, how teachers unions and those that are seeking to weaken charter school access could use this messaging in an effort to try to further shut down school choice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big concern. I think that honestly, that's why I think the Teachers Millions and Teachers Union has invested $5-10 million now in TV ads, calling this a voucher law, and really using these really kind of scare tactics and fear mongering. I think they're doing that Not because I think they actually think it's a voucher, but I think they see this as their opportunity to come after school choice and say, "Oh, look, it failed. So now let's really roll back all of these rights and let's start, continue to chip away at charter schools because the voters said they don't support school choice." So I think they see this as a really strong move on their part, right, to continue to dismantle school choice.
I think it's absolutely critical that conservatives, independents, even progressives get out there and protect this right. School choice has been a big impact in our family. Our kids went to their neighborhood schools. I used to volunteer in the classroom. I helped out with a dad program. And I noticed that our kids were just getting handed iPads a lot. I didn't like that. I was frustrated with the direction of our kids' education. We found a great charter school that has prepared a wonderful foundation for our kids, really pressed and pushed them in their academic achievements. It's been a great fit for us. We were one of the founding families of this charter school, and I couldn't be more thrilled with the options and the freedom we had as parents in Colorado to provide alternative education options for our kids. I'm very concerned about what teachers unions and big education wants to do to try to shut down those options, to funnel kids into very, one size fits all educational opportunities. And I don't think that's right. I think you need to give parents the right to choose what's best for their kids so their kids can achieve it. And we've seen time and time again in charter schools that when you do that, these schools rise to the top. The kids really do well, are pushed really hard. And you don't have all of the politics going into education either. We can get back to the basics. Now, Brenda Dickhoner, President and CEO of Ready Colorado, as we wrap here, tell folks what Ready Colorado does if they want to join your organization at readycolo.org. What can they do, and what are you doing to ensure that kids in Colorado receive the education they deserve?
Yes, absolutely. I encourage you to check out our website at readycolo.org and sign up for our newsletter. That'll be a great way to stay updated. We are a state-level advocacy organization, which really means that we're focused on the state legislature, the state board of education, but we certainly have our eye on local school board politics as well. And we really advocate for school choice and the parents' rights. And I think this is, it's absolutely under attack. I want to emphasize that. And I'm sure your listeners are very aware of that, right? But I trust parents. I don't trust the government, and I don't trust even our local school districts. I think even those that we think are, we consider friendlier to school choice, right? Douglas County, for example. One of the things I do at Ready Colorado is I also try to stay on top of statewide task forces, which are a way that legislators delegate work to these task forces that are then appointed by legislators or by state agencies. And they are tasked with making recommendations to policymakers, which then inform laws. And I served on one around school transportation, and Douglas County blocked a recommendation that simply would have explored how to improve transportation to charter schools. And they teamed up with the teachers union to block that. So we can't even have now at the state level a conversation about how we can improve access to high quality schools, including charter schools. And I think that's really disappointing, but I think that cements my belief in parents and in empowering parents. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of Amendment 80 is let's put the control in the hands of those who know their children best. And then we have to continue to push, right, to figure out how to increase access, how to grow schools of choice, and make it easier for parents to use and access those schools.
Talking with Brenda Dickhoner, President and CEO of Ready Colorado. You can join Ready Colorado by going to readycolo.org. Thanks so much for taking time to explore and explain the importance of Amendment 80 and why people should be supporting that. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Jeff and Bill, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on News Talk 710, KNUS.